Andrew, you're up first, mate. So if you could unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm appearing there twice because I've got my laptop so I can type in the chat, but my phone is a bit more reliable sound-wise. So get that out of the way first as to why I'm there twice.
Okay, it's all right. It makes me feel like there's more
Right.
people on the call. It's good for me.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Cool.
All right, let's get it.
Okay. So do you want me to just get into what I've chosen as my topic?
Please do. Yeah, let's dive straight in.
Okay. So I've sort of narrowed it down to this is, and hopefully I've worded it okay. Getting over my reluctance to engage in discussions that either are or could get uncomfortable and could result in conflict, aggression, discomfort. That sums it up, I think. It's a reluctance to engage, especially if it's already an aggressive or a conflict situation.
All right.
Biggie.
So we've got the idea of anticipating that it might be a conflict or very certain evidence that it already is one, or perhaps you know the person well enough to know how they're likely to respond.
Yeah, especially if someone's spoken to me in a certain manner that I feel is not friendly.
Cool. All right, so we'll oversimplify that as perhaps fear of confrontation. Though I will ask just to clarify, if you were to confront someone that for whatever reason you assumed is going to respond rationally and calmly, even though you're being, say, assertive or setting a boundary or giving them critical feedback, would the same fear come up? Or is this really about the people who you can't predict the reaction and that's going to be a bad one?
Yeah, it actually is that. Even when I know that it's not going to result in aggression or conflict. For example, if someone's wearing a piece of clothing of mine, I don't feel comfortable saying, don't think you realise that's my hat that you're wearing. It looks like yours, but it's actually mine. So yeah, just that sort of thing is also on the radar.
Good, I'm glad I asked because that's a significant point. Right, there's the fear of other people's reactions, which for most people are it's obvious why we might be afraid of that, from an uncomfortable or awkward moment through to outright violence. But actually being afraid of just standing up for yourself with no negative response on the other side, that alone itself giving you a fear response. Way more common than people even think about, right? And I want to hold on to that because I think that's going to show us that your fear lies within you asserting yourself on its own. Other people having a bad reaction is on top of that. There's already an underlying fear of you just saying, this is mine, that's my hat, right? Even if the other person's going to be fine with you saying that. All right, so like I said, this is a shortest path coaching. So we've got the issue. What's the goal? So if this issue is solved, what does that mean for you? Where do you end up?
It will mean that I am able, or I don't have I don't have a fear of any engagement, even if it is going to result in considerable aggression. No, so the goal is going to be that I'm going to be able to set and maintain boundaries. Well, the outcome, I think.
Okay. The fact that you're not entirely clear on the goal is probably part of this issue. What I'm hearing is there's so we're getting already into one of the reasons I think why this fear is coming up for you. In the goal, there is some attachment to the outcome. So there is definitely I'll get a result that I want from the person, not just that I'll assert myself, but that it will go the way I prefer it to go.
I'm going to say no. That's me falling back or staying in comfort. So I would like to be able to engage in interactions, shall we say, no matter what the outcome.
Good.
Does that sound?
I think it's important. Yeah, I think it's
what I need
important.
to do is not be afraid of people disagreeing with.
Okay, we're getting closer to an outcome, or a goal that's within your realm of power here. Okay, one of the reasons I wanted you to clarify that, because if your goal is about the result in any way, the other person's reaction in any way, you automatically lose power. Which is one of the reasons we have fear. Fear comes up to say, don't bother doing that, you can't. Right? When you walk towards the edge of a cliff to jump off and fly, your body starts shutting down because it knows that you're being stupid, that you can't win this one. So when your goal is to control something that isn't really yours to control, and deep down you know it, even if you've had some luck in the past, automatically a fear response or an anxiety response comes up. One of the ways for you guys to like help understand anxiety is it might be trying to tell you that you're focused on something you can't control. Very rare for anxiety to come up when you're focused on something that you can do something about easily. Right? So often it's the goal that gives us anxiety, not the situation. Situation's fine if we didn't have that goal. Right? Being stuck in traffic is fine if you don't want the traffic to move freely. If you don't mind being late, right? If you want to get early and you're already running late, you're going to get anxiety because you can't control the traffic. So, got the fear of standing up for yourself and the added sort of icing layer of fear of them having a very uncomfortable reaction. And then we've got the goal of you being able to assert yourself no matter how they respond, no matter how you know they're going to respond or anticipate it, can't anticipate it, but without fear. That's actually not under your control. And what I mean by that is, surely with practice of anything, you can become less afraid just from exposure therapy. But the idea that you will one day be completely fearless about confrontation, not only is that not yours to control, it might not actually be a good idea. Right? Maybe we should be a little bit vigilant when having a confrontation, a little bit concerned about possibilities when coming at someone assertively who may have an unpredictable reaction. Maybe that's a good time to have just a little bit of fear, right? So let me ask you this. Is being fearless a reasonable goal, or is there something else that you can control better?
No, I think that being courageous is a better goal.
Okay.
To be able to fix fear and not have that shut everything down.
So what's the difference between fearless and courageous?
Well, if you're fearless, you don't feel fear, you don't have an attachment. Not you don't have an attachment to outcomes, but I guess essentially it means that you're not challenged. Well, it would mean that I'm not challenging myself at all. Whereas to have courage means there's uncertainty about whatever situation, whether it be, starting a new job, leaving an existing job, talking to a boss, talking to a partner, and having that, what if it doesn't go well, and being able to actually still let go of that and go into the situation to actually engage and, I guess, grow. Otherwise, I'll just stagnate and go backwards.
So courageous is quite different to fearless, isn't it? Fearless, there's no sense of challenge whatsoever. It's comfortable. Courageous is actually moving in spite of an urge to not move. Doing something even though you're, deeply concerned about how that's going to play out.
Yep, that lens.
The reason I got you to clarify that is because I think one of the problems is that underlying your fear of confrontation is not so much confrontations are scary. They are. They should be, right? The problem is you're waiting to not feel fear, assuming that that's a prerequisite before you can act. Like bravery is the absence of fear, the absence of uncomfortable anticipated emotions or present emotions. And it's like you're sitting around like, hey, once this feeling goes away, then I can speak up. How do I get rid of this feeling? But do you actually need to get rid of the feeling to be able to move? Does it stop you?
I'll say I shouldn't have to, but at the moment it seems to prevent me. With saying, just don't rock the boat. Don't say anything.
The voice says don't rock the boat, and I'm assuming you have physiological, maybe tension or heat or basically uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah. But I don't know. Whenever anyone says, "How do you feel in your body?" in any situation where they're asking that, it ends up being I get sort of like a knife in my stomach. Is the main sort of sensation of feeling that I have.
So you got a knot in your stomach, a voice saying "rock, don't rock the boat" or words to that effect. Maybe projections of this going badly, like imagined disasters and so on in your head. But how does that stop you exactly? How does that prevent you from moving?
How does that? Well, that's a good question. Can I say I don't know?
It's a good
I'm,
answer.
I'm trying to the actual sort of mechanism of it preventing me. All I know is that comes up, and it's just don't do it.
Well, what it
I've
sounds
got
like,
stories about why.
what it sounds like, and I'm basing this on more than just our conversation, but this kind of conversation with hundreds of people, is that the voice and feeling comes up. It feels like a command, and you obey the command. But it's not actually a physical force stopping you. You must obey the command for it to stop you.
Okay, that makes sense, but I'm still no closer to answering the question as to how it, excuse me, how it actually does that.
Maybe it's like a magic trick. Maybe it doesn't stop you, but you stop yourself.
Yeah.
It's like if you imagine you're coming up to I don't know, let's say you're driving up to a intersection and somebody on the side of the road puts their hand up like that, and you stop the car. Did their hand stop you?
No.
Then why did you stop?
It would be because assumably that person's probably wearing a policeman's uniform or something. Because if a normal person did it, to be honest, I'd just go straight by them. But if it was hot, then there's perceived authority that this person has a reason to be saying stop, and therefore I will adhere to social conventions and stop when that person tells me to.
Perceived authority. I couldn't have put it better.
Mm.
You'd only stop if you think you're supposed to stop for this person, if they have what you give them authority. So a normal person could dress as a police officer, they have no legal authority, but if you believe they're one, you'll stop. And then you'll probably get carjacked. So you have to believe that this is an authority figure that you have to obey. And that is exactly what you're doing with the voice and the knot in your stomach. You're treating it like a police officer. It doesn't actually stop you. I have almost no doubt you were nervous to get on this call. There were some fear sensations about getting on this call today. So how come you were able to do it? Why didn't you stop?
Because this is a really, really good opportunity to address something that a small thing, but actually it's a really big thing for me. But like I said in the email to you, I think I said I'm excited and terrified at the same time. And to be honest, my coffee's only just kicking in at 6 a.m. here, and I didn't sleep much last night, so I was just on autopilot. Get up, get on the call.
Terrified, you've been anticipating it, you're physically at a low, still able to do it.
Mm-hmm. I guess another thing is that I don't have a fear of you. You know,
I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment.
well, in terms of this isn't going to go bad, and you're not going to. I mean, if you do start ripping into me, you're not going to embarrass me and ridicule me and hurt my ego.
Except you don't actually know that. You told yourself that and you believed it. You happen to be right. But who knows? I could do it by accident. You took that risk anyway. You told yourself a different story about getting on this call than you tell yourself about asking the person to give you your hat back. And that is the only difference. The sensations were the same, the stakes were the same, the potential risk was the same. In fact, you're on a group coaching call, it's being recorded. If I'm a bad person, I can do a lot more harm to you than the guy wearing your hat. You took that risk anyway. The idea that you lack courage is actually a bullshit story you tell yourself. Disproven by the very fact that you're here right now. If you really were the coward you think you are, I wouldn't be talking to you. This would be too difficult. You think this is a how-to problem. If it was a how-to problem, then you wouldn't be here because you wouldn't figure out how to get on the call.
Okay.
So the answers are all there. You actually do know how to do this. What you have is a transfer problem. For some reason, when you get into another situation, you think it's different to this and you react differently, and you behave differently. It's a little lie you tell yourself. When you go to confront your partner about whatever it is, you tell yourself that's different to getting on a group coaching call with Dan, when it's actually not. There was a key difference. You said you were terrified and excited about this call. In other situations, you're just terrified or anxious, shall we say.
Yeah.
Because you've got something you want to get out of this call, right? You're here with a goal, you're here with value, this is important to you.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not looking at confrontations as the same opportunity.
Yeah, very true. And this is a source of, I won't say constant, but frequent annoyance to my partner because she doesn't love conflict, but she loves, I guess, courageous conversation. Not stuffing around, get things out. And then when we try to have one, I just sort of shut down often. Sometimes I'm able to open up and I guess be vulnerable, and other times I've got this sort of, I guess, a part of me that thinks it's acting as a protector, like a coddling mother protecting a little baby, except I'm not a little baby anymore.
What you got is somebody dressed up like a police officer with their hand up, but they're not a police officer.
Okay.
They're not really your mother. It's just nonsense in your head.
Mm-hmm.
You will get more out of standing up for yourself in one of those situations you usually don't than you will out of this call.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what you should be excited about. I mean, your wife has literally told you this would be good for our relationship. So you can actually get an external win. I'm not even talking about the internal stuff, which is actually the important shit. Tell me, if you did stand up, even if it was shaky and nervous and didn't go the way you wanted, but you finally stood up when you usually didn't, and you did it by conscious decision, like, this is it, I'm going to go for it. How would you feel about yourself after that?
On the occasions that I've done it, it feels that it's empowering.
Is that a good enough reason to do it?
Well, yeah, because it means that I gain a shred of self-respect.
Imagine if you gained a shred a couple of times every day. Imagine what those shreds would add up to.
Yeah.
What's worse? Pushing through the discomfort to have a shaky confrontation with someone, or how you feel about not doing that enough.
And was it which is better or which is worse?
Which is worse?
Which is worse? Oh, undoubtedly the feeling of not having addressed something, especially if it's a recurring thing that is actually of no relevance whatsoever to the other person.
Yeah.
It would potentially enable that behaviour to stop, or okay, I acknowledge it, but I'm not going to change it. But at least the conversation's been had, rather than having it brewing away in my head.
You have to let go that the conversation will have any effect on the other person. That's the bit that ruins this for you. When that goal gets mixed up with the values-based goal of you fucking being able to look at yourself in the mirror and go, fuck, I did it today, thank God, right? That's the real reason to do this, the shit that you can control. Shit, it doesn't matter how they react. In fact, the worse they react, the more points you get for having handled it, putting yourself in a situation. Basically, yeah, that's how it works with confrontations. The worse it goes, the more bravery points you get. You can almost end up hoping it's a blowout. Almost. But if you're like, yeah, but it'd be nice if it went well, you're already fucked. Because those are two conflicting goals. One is about controlling yourself, the other is about controlling the other person. As soon as you think about controlling the other person, anxiety, because a lifetime's experience has told you people are not predictable, they're not controllable. Anyone can surprise you, anyone can shock you. Yeah, the real secret to winning a confrontation is not caring if you lose.
Yeah, I've been there in the past. After reading your books, basically, I don't know what happened. Sort of dropped off. I guess I got attached to the outcome again.
Yeah, that's really common as a guy will make progress, and then he'll actually get a couple of outcomes, and boom, the attachment to outcomes comes back. It's like our addiction comes back when we have a little taste of the drug, What you need is a constant reminder of why you're doing this. You need to seek out confrontations that don't even need to happen for you. It doesn't actually matter. You can pick low-hanging fruit. You can choose someone you know they're going to be fine with it.
I hear what you're saying, and it all makes perfect sense. But inside, I'm going, So, okay.
That's your attachment to outcomes doing that.
Okay.
Because it knows that if you move forward with this, there's going to be some rough times.
Well, the fact is that there are going to be anyway, regardless.
Yes.
It's like, I remember the first, what was the only, it was just before you left New Zealand, came along to a circle in the statement that hard things now make for an easy life, easy decisions now make for a hard life longer term. And it's exactly that.
I deal exclusively almost with nice guy syndrome, which is really just human nature. I've come to decide I'm yet to meet someone who doesn't have at least 200 of the traits. But anyway, what we really struggle to accept with nice guy syndrome is that there isn't an option that doesn't have suffering. We hold out for that suffering-free option, what the Glover calls smooth problem-free life. We're just holding out like, where's the option where like nothing bad happens? So you realize, no, you get a choice between bad and fucking horrible. Those are your real options. Okay. The good thing is you get to choose. It's totally up to you which one of those you have, but horrible is the default if you don't choose. Right?
Okay.
There's a range of there's a range of unpleasant potential outcomes. And the longer you wait, the least unpleasant ones start getting taken off the table, but the worst ones hang about until all you're left is just the worst. You ask anyone who's procrastinate on something important, what ended up as their final option when they did nothing. And it's the shittiest thing, isn't it? Always.
Yeah.
Of all the possible things, they know they should have acted earlier. That's always the story. So you got to understand you've got two potential choices. This isn't the third one where all confrontations go well and you feel fearless. That's off the table and never existed. You've got feeling afraid, doing it anyway, sometimes getting a bad reaction, and then feeling proud of yourself afterwards. And doing that a lot until your overall self-respect builds to the point where this is actually fairly routine for you to do and you get good at it. That's option one. Option two is the option you're currently living. Back down, fucking loathe yourself. Those are your only two options.
Yeah. And then when backing down, another layer of shit comes on top.
Doesn't it just? It stacks up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Very much so, without going into specifics, but yeah.
The beauty of this is this ends the second you choose even the tiniest, most small amount of discomfort conversation you can think of and make it happen of your own accord by your own choice. You are allowed to back down after your first move. You're allowed to quit if it gets too hard. Okay, I give you full permission to bail out if it gets out of your control, or back down, pussy out. You do whatever you want after you say something. That's it. You just have to get across the line. You have to go from 0 to 1. That's it. You don't have to go to a 10. Build up to a 10. 10 comes later. Okay. You don't go into martial arts, go straight to black belt. You go to white belt and get your ass kicked a little bit. Right? You can go home early from the class if people were too mean to you. It's fine. You're still doing a billion times more than someone who doesn't do martial arts. Right? I suggest choosing your partner. I suggest choosing something small. Just say something. And just make the other choice. You will not feel good about it. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
That's all you need to be.
You have to be.
Your voice can shake. Your stomach can be in a knot. You can get your words wrong. You can get beaten in the argument. That's all perfectly fine. That's not a loss. Staying quiet's the loss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. You just got to do one. Then ask yourself, how do I feel about doing that? And then you decide the rest of your life after that.
I'll just share for everyone else. At the moment, I've got this little voice going, yeah, but what about, what if, and it's sort of, shut up, or thank you, but go away now and sit in the corner and let me get on with it. So,
Yeah, there's two things I say to that voice. I either say fuck off, or I say let's find out.
mm-hmm. Okay.
That voice shuts up real quick if it knows that you're going to respond with let's find out. It was like, what if this happens? You're like, oh, good question. Let's go see. The voice going to shut. Doesn't mean do it. No.
Okay. That's a good one. It's fine.
Another technique that people have found helpful, I don't use it myself, is you can exaggerate the what if. So what if she gets angry at me? It's like, oh yeah, what if she actually finds a nuclear device and destroys the whole planet just because she was mad at me? Just go, how many more what ifs do you want to do, bro? How far you want to take this? They're all ridiculous. They're all fictions. Have fun with it. Go as far as you like. Doesn't make a difference. None of them are true.
Mm-hmm.
You understand, you don't have a how-to problem. Do exactly what you did showing up for this call. Find a good reason to do it for yourself. Take a step with no obligation to go further, no obligation to win. Be willing to lose. Go in as the underdog. The white belt against the black belt. Prepare to get your ass kicked. Go in resigned to defeat. Fuck it. Defeat would be good for me. Right?
Okay.
You might get a bit of a white swan event. It might go well. That's nice, but it shouldn't need to.
Okay.
Can you follow through on that? Have you got a specific idea that you can follow through with here?
Yep. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to get the item of clothing example because it's going to be a complete. There's no chance it's going to be confrontational at all. It'll be, oh, sorry, didn't realise.
Perfect. As
So
soon
it's
as
that
possible.
small. And yeah, I mean, every day things come up. So yeah, I just can't think of anything else in particular. So yeah.
You only need one to
Thanks.
get started.